We've got to work on shoulders to start off with. So just stand your feet apart, make sure your knees are relaxed, your feet are soft. Just going to roll your shoulders backwards. Okay, so you're trying to make this movement from your shoulders, not from your elbows. The tendency to do this. Try and keep the arms straight. So as you're rolling the shoulders backwards, you'll feel that crunching. You're just trying to feel that you're opening up the chest and just working. So much of our day is spent like this. We're just trying to feel that we're opening up the chest, but engaging those muscles between the shoulder blades, which are some of the weaker muscles in the body, just because of our posture. Now roll the shoulders forward. Again, same principle. You're trying not to lift from the elbows. You're just trying to move from the shoulders. So the body's very good at cheating. You'll always find a way of making things easier. You have to try and focus now on doing this movement, say, just from the shoulders, not from the elbows. Okay, so just do 2 more. Good, and then rest. Okay, now take the arms out wide, so your wrists are in line with your shoulders. You're clenching your fists and your thumbs are pointing forward. Again, just make sure your neck is relaxed, your knees are soft. Squeeze those shoulder blades backwards and down. Now very slowly, make small circles with your arms. So you imagine that your knuckles are tracing the outside edge of a CD, if you can remember what one of those looks like. So again, neck stays relaxed, small circles, and that movement is coming from your shoulders, not from your wrists or from your elbows. So you just imagine you're circling, your knuckles are tracing the outside edge of a CD. Now, if it gets too much, just drop the arms down slightly. But the idea is you're trying to keep your wrists in line with your shoulders. And it makes you just realize how heavy your arms are and also what a strain that can put on your neck. So again, bear that in mind in your working posture, okay? So just relax, remember, let those arms drop down. You'll feel that tension through there. Now we'll do the same thing, but this time your thumbs point backwards. So you're making a fist, don't clench too hard. Small circles, tracing the outside of the CD. Again, make sure your knees are relaxed, feel that the core is engaged, but your neck stays relaxed. Making that movement from the shoulders to small circles. Good. So again, if you feel tired, just drop the arms down slightly. The idea is to try and keep those wrists in line with the shoulders and feel that you're lengthening through the arms as well. Good. And then resting there. Okay, so that's quite a challenge. Okay, so just make that a little bit more dynamic now. So your hands here starting at waist height, you're just going to step forward, and as you step forward, throw your arms back. So as you're throwing your arms back, you're feeling that stretch across your chest. So the idea is we're opening up the chest, but also just engaging those muscles between the shoulder blades, but just again try and feel them getting that lengthening from waist to ribs. So we're just trying to open ourselves up. Okay, so we're looking at, as we're lengthening through that core, just stepping into, throwing the chest up to the ceiling, squeezing the shoulder blades backwards and down. Good. So we're going to do 3 more. Good. And then rest there. Okay, so give the shoulders a bit of a break for a moment. So into our squat. So feet together, knees together. You're looking not to let the knees go forward first of all. You're looking to push the hips back. So it's quite tricky keeping those feet together. But again, trying to feel that stretch across the lower back. So nice and slowly ease into it. The question you're asking is how far back can I sit as opposed to how low down can I go? So you're sitting backwards and then reaching forwards. Once you've answered the question of how far back you go, then it's a case of how low down can you go. And we're reaching forward with our hands pointing down to help us counterbalance, but you're trying to keep your big toe on the floor, your heel on the floor. The weight shifts more towards your heel, but if we keep the big toe down, you'll stay balanced. As soon as your big toe lifts up, you'll start to move over and topple backwards. Okay, so 3 more. Good. Last one. And that's okay. We'll come back to those again shortly. So still keeping those feet together, standing tall as you can. We're going to work out our waistband. So I'm just making this movement again from my waist. That space between ribs and hips. I'm trying not to lift the arm up. So I slide down, keeping my hips still. So again, just working through that trunk, trying to get the core, the spine to do all the movements the spine should be able to do. So here we're just doing a little bit of lateral flexion, but keeping the hips still, trying not to let the shoulders move. And you'll find it's quite tricky. So I've lengthened this side, shorten this side. I want you to feel that. One side is lengthening, one side is shortening. And if it's difficult, what your body will tend to do is rotate to try and accommodate that movement. You're imagining you're stuck between two panes of glass. Now make it a little bit easier, so feet go hip width apart, but again, still keep those hips still. So you're sliding down, try to get your hand to touch the outside of your knee, trying to stay as upright as possible, not rolling forward. Good. Feet stay relaxed, knees stay relaxed. Now we're going to let the knees join in, so the hips join in. So I push my hip across, I slide down, I push my hip across and slide down. So now I've got a much bigger movement, and again, I'm trying to feel that stretch from my hip all the way to my ribs. Good. So again, we're just feeling that we're lengthening the spine in as many different directions as possible. We're just assuming that there's a lot of sitting. We're going to try and take the spine through as many range of movements as we can in a comfortable way, just to try and aid your posture. Good. Now take the arm over the head now. So that now again lengthens the stretch. So that stretch now goes from my hip all the way up to my elbow. So again, I'm really working through my rib cage. Now I push the hip away, I reach that arm up and over. So how far can I push the hip across? How far can I reach? I'm trying to get that arm to brush my ear. Good, as I push away. Good. So 2 more. Good, and then rest. Okay, so back to our squats. This time feet to hip width apart. Again, I sit down and I reach forward. So nice and slow. Remember, your knees are trying to stay behind the line of your shoelaces. Your big toe stays down. You reach forward. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reach across to one side. So I sit and I reach across to my left. I come back up to standing. I sit back and I reach across to my right. The feeling is I'm pushing my hips back square, but I'm turning my upper body slightly. So my hips go back square. The weight is evenly distributed between left and right foot. I push as far back as I can. I reach as far forward and down as I can. So again, getting that stretch from my hips to my ribs. All the time working my legs, pushing up through my feet. Good. 2 more. And then rest. Okay, we'll come back to squats in a minute. Arms start down by your side. This time I'm going to step forward. As I step forward, the feeling is I'm going to brush my ears with my arms. So again, I'm alternating feet. I balance on the big toe of my back foot. Weight goes onto my front leg. I'm clasping my hands at the top of the movement, so the feeling is I'm pinching my ears, but again, I'm trying to create that space between hips and ribs, and I'm trying to feel that lengthening through the spine. I reach my chest to the ceiling, hands go as high as they can, and I stretch up, so the stretch is almost from my big toe to my fingertips. Lean back, look up, good. 3 more. Good, last one, and then rest. Okay, so going to go onto the floor now, please. So you can lie down on something comfortable. You can have cushions if you want to. Just going to lie on our backs. So start lying on your back, just bring both knees up onto your chest, let the head drop down, let neck and shoulders relax. All we're going to do to start off with, again, is just massaging the lower back. So my knees stay together. My feet stay together and I just rock from side to side. Again, I'm trying not to fall off the mat. I'm just making small rocking movements from side to side. Okay, now from there, I keep my knees together and my feet together and I circle my hips. So my hands stay on my knees. I'm just circling my hips, my knees. Good, then change direction. You can hear that squeaking on my floor. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more circles. Good, and then resting there. So this time my hands stay on my knees, but I separate my knees and I circle my knees independently. So again, this is really going to open up the hips. So I'm just pushing my knees away, making circles. So how far can you push those knees away, but keep the feet together? You pull the knees towards your chest, and again, you circle out. Good. So now we're going to change direction. So same thing, you just circle the other way. So again, a little bit of coordination, keep the feet together, take the knees as wide as you can, pull the knees towards you, make big circles. Good. 2 more. Good, and then resting there. Okay, so both feet go on the floor, arms then go by your side, palms are going to face up. We're just going to try and tilt our pelvis towards us as we slowly lift the hips up off the floor. And again, you slowly, slowly lower down. So you're just picturing in your mind's eye that you're just picking up one vertebra at a time and then slowly lowering that vertebrae down one at a time. So the tendency is to go up like a plank, allowing you to feel that you're rolling up like a rope. And again, neck and shoulders stay relaxed. You'll tilt the pelvis, you lift the hips up high, keep the knees together, slowly, slowly lower down. Again, you tilt the pelvis, you lift the hips up high, and then slowly lower down. So the challenge is to see how high you can lift the hips, but also it's a case of how relaxed you can keep your neck and shoulders, and how controlled you can make that rolling up and that rolling down. You just want to feel that you're lifting the hips up and then putting them back down in exactly the same place. And they've gone up in a line and gone down in that same line. Okay, so one more up. Good. And one more down. And then rest. Okay, so those feet can now go hip width apart, as do the knees. Just take your arms now directly above your chest. So your palms are facing in. All we're looking to do is to reach the hand over the opposite hand. So as I reach my hand up to the ceiling and across, my shoulder blade lifts up off the floor. So as my right hand reaches over my left hand, my right shoulder blade comes up off the floor. As my left goes over my right, my left shoulder blade reaches off the floor. And you're just trying to feel that your head stays down, your hips stay relaxed, but again, we're trying to get some movement through that rib cage, lifting the shoulder blade off the floor. We're just trying to make everything start to feel a little bit more fluid rather than stiff. Good. So one more on each side. Good. And then so now palms stay exactly where they are. Just reach both hands up to the ceiling now as high as you can, and then let the arms just drop down to the floor. So I'm keeping the arms straight both on the way up and on the way down. But as I let them down, I just let them crash down into the floor. So as they crash down into the floor, you'll feel the thud. And you hear the noise as they thud down. Just reach up and just feel that you're just shaking out all that tension. So reach up and drop down. So reach up and then drop down. Two more. Good. Now take both arms back behind your head. Again, the goal here is to keep the arms straight. Then you circle the arms all the way down to the hips. And again, nice and slowly, you take the arms up over the head, keeping the arms straight, and then you circle down to the hips. So your goal here is A, keeping the arms straight, try and make the perfect circle, but also keep the elbow, the wrist, and the fingertips as close to the floor as you can. And you'll probably find that on one side it's possible, the other side maybe not so easy. Okay, so when your hands touch your hips next time, you're going to change direction. And again, you circle and you pull down. You circle up and around, and then you pull down. So nice big circles, you pull up and around, and then pull down. Same principle, arms stay straight, make that big circle. Good. Last one. And then rest. Okay, so you're going to have your elbows now in line with your shoulders. Elbows are touching the floor, fingertips are pointing up to the ceiling, and your fingertips are directly over your elbows. Everything else stays relaxed. So all I want to do here, keeping the elbow on the floor, let my hands drop down to the floor, as if I'm hinging on the elbow. Then I bring my hands back to the start position, then let my hands go backwards, again dropping down to the floor. So rather like the flaps on an aeroplane, you're just hinging there on your elbow, and as you roll the hands forward, you'll feel your shoulder blades lift off the floor. As you roll your hands back, you'll feel the shoulder blades make contact. So you're keeping your wrists directly over your elbow stays in line with your shoulder, and you're just hinging, going between that forward movement and then that backward movement. Again, making sure that hips, feet, knees, neck, shoulders stay relaxed. Good. Two more. Good. So when your hands go back the next time and your fingertips are touching the floor, trying to, your palms are facing up, just keep that position. So you've got a right angle. both in your elbow and at the shoulder joints. So from there, you're going to pull your elbows along the ground and try and get those elbows to try and touch your rib cage. As you do that, track your thumbs down so they try and touch your shoulders. And you finish up what we call a chicken wing position. And again, you glide back to the start. So you've got right angles. Again, you pull the elbows down into the rib cage, try to get your thumbs to track in line and try to get your thumbs to touch your shoulders. So the ultimate goal here would be to keep the elbows on the floor, the wrists on the floor, the fingertips on the floor, as the thumb touches the shoulders and the elbow touches the rib cage. And this is really tricky. You might find that some of you, it's up in the air. That's fine, it's work in progress. Try not to hinge at the wrist. Try and have a feeling that you're trying to keep your wrist in contact, as if you had a ruler strapped to the back of your hand so that your wrist can't break. It stays in that straight line with your elbow. So as you're gliding down, feel that your shoulder blades pull together. And as your shoulder blades pull together, you'll feel your chest open. So again, make sure the hips stay relaxed, head, neck stays relaxed as you squeeze down. Good. So just going to do 2 more. So this is quite challenging, particularly those who spend a lot of the time at the desk. This is really tricky. Okay, so same start position, elbows in line with shoulders, fingertips directly above the elbows, right angles. You're going to try and glide those hands high above the head along the floor, to meet above the head, and then come back down. So your goal here again would be to try and keep the elbows on the floor. And you can see mine lift off. I'm keeping my fingertips down, but I'm still trying to create that nice arch. It's a Gothic arch. I'm trying to keep my hips relaxed as my fingertips try and meet directly above my head. So on a gym floor, this would be a shoulder press if you were standing. But as you can see, it's difficult to keep those elbows in line with shoulders. Again, try not to move into pain or try and move away from pain. Just go within a range that you feel comfortable. But again, make sure that your hips, lower back stays relaxed. Okay, 2 more ups. Good. And resting there. That's quite challenging. Okay, so now take the arms out wide. I hope you can feel that stretch across your chest. The arms are out wide. You bring the knees together. So again, you're pinning your shoulder blades down. My knees go to the right. My head turns to the left. I pull back to center. My knees go to the left, my head turns to the right. So your focus here is keeping your wrists, elbows, shoulders on the floor throughout the whole movement. It doesn't matter how far the knees go across. The goal initially is just to keep those shoulder blades down. So again, trying to get some mobility in that lower back. We're feeling that stretch across the chest, down through the arms. And again, you might find that one side feels easier to move than the other. Nice and slowly. Just going to do 1 more in each direction. Good. And then rest. Okay, so knees are where they are, arms are out wide. Take your left leg and cross it over your right leg so you've got a tight fit. Your right hand now goes on top of your left knee. Your left arm stays on the floor. All I'm going to try and do is take that knee as far across as I can, with my right hand on top of the outside of my left knee, but I keep my left shoulder blade down. I turn my head to look along my left arm. So I'm trying to feel that stretch here in my left hip, but also maybe in the lower back and across the chest, down through that arm. So again, if you can get your knee to touch the floor, great, but make sure that your left shoulder blade stays on the floor and you're looking along that left arm. Keep breathing. The more you can breathe into this, the bigger the stretch, the more relaxed you'll be. Good. And then slowly, slowly, you ease out of that. So you bring that knee back. Left foot goes down. Right leg goes across the left knee. Right arm goes out wide. Left hand onto the outside of your right knee. You take that right knee across towards your left. You turn your head to look along your right arm. And you keep pulling that right knee down with the left hand, but keeping your right shoulder blade down. And keep breathing, relaxing, feeling that stretch in your right hip across your chest. Good. Keep breathing. Good. And you're going to very, very slowly uncurl out to there, and in your own time, come back up onto your feet. Good. Okay. So, going to go back. Okay, you're going to go back to the lunge we did earlier on with the arms lift up in the air. What I want us to do this time is only going to be right foot that goes forward. So my right foot goes forward. I'm going to push my hips to the right as I lean to the left. I come back to standing. So right foot goes forward. I push my hips to the right. I lean to the left. So again, your goal will be to try and squeeze your ears, push the hips as far across as you can, but stay balanced. So again, I'm balancing on the big toe of my left foot. I'm keeping my hips and my shoulders parallel to the screen, and I'm feeling that stretch from my hip all the way through to my ribs. So I'm pushing across and reaching. So again, it's testing my balance, but again, I'm getting that good stretch from my hips to my ribs. 2 more. Good, and then rest. Okay, so we do the same thing now, left foot goes forward. So left foot goes forward, again, you push your hips to the left, you lean to the right. So I step, push my hips to the left, I lean to the right. Again, try and squeeze those ears, hips to the left, lean to the right. Balance on the big toe, good. If it's easier for you to stay balanced, then just turn your left foot in slightly as you push that hip across. But the feeling is you're keeping your hips and shoulders parallel to your screen. 2 more. Good, and then resting there. Okay, so feet go hip width apart. We're going to go into that chicken wing position we did on the floor. So I'm going to try and get my elbows close into my rib cage, my thumbs close to my shoulders. That's my start position. And from here, I'm just going to push those hands high above the head. They reach up high, and then I come back. So this is exactly what you did on the floor, but you're imagining that you're lying on the floor and you're pushing those hands as high above the head as you can. So what tends to happen is the hands will go to that position, or we'll start to do that to create that. So you're trying to keep your body as still as you can, your core engaged, and just feel that you're pushing your hands as high above the head as you can. Good. So what we're going to do now, that same movement, we're just going to add a rotation. So I rotate to the left. As I do so, I push my hands up high, I come back, and I rotate to the right, and I push my hands up high. So the feeling is I'm almost going to lean back slightly to make that stretch. So I rotate, push the hands up high, try to turn my torso through 90 degrees, squeeze the ears, and again, just pay attention to which side feels easiest to turn to. Good, as you go into and out of. Okay, so 2 more. Good, last one. Well done. Okay, we're resting there. Okay, so we bring the hands back down to waist height. So this time, I'm going to alternate feet, but my arms are always going to do this. My left hand always goes high, and my right hand always goes low. So I'm alternating feet and throwing my chest forward, but my left hand is always high, and my right hand is always low. And the feeling is you're walking into one of your fabulous cocktail parties. Here I am, walking through the door. Squeeze the shoulder blades together, throw the chest forward, open out. Alternating feet, left hand high, right hand low. 2 more. Good, and then rest. Okay, so now we do the same thing, but this time right hand high, left hand low. Again, this movement you could do with light weights, but again, I'd only have maybe 1 or 2 kilos. But the idea is you're throwing the arms back, throwing the chest forward, trying to stay balanced, maintaining that position with the hands, so right high, left low, on that sort of diagonal. Good. Last 2. Good, and then resting there. Well done. Okay, so get those arms just rest for a moment. Okay, so we go back to our squats. This time our feet are going to go out wide. So I'm turning my toes out 10 to 2, feet are going out wider. I'm now looking just to sit down into that stretch. So I try and keep my head a little bit more over my shoulders this time. I sit down, and again, it's a case of how low can I go, and also how far back down. I'm trying to get my hips to travel below the line of my knees. And I'm trying to feel that stretch on the inside of my thighs. Toes are turned out, I sit down, I push up, good. Good, so you're going to do 4 more. Good. So last one. Good, and then resting there. Okay, so that's just winding down. So take your hands across your shoulders. The idea is to keep your shoulders still. Nice and slowly turn your head to the left, keeping the shoulders still. Feel that stretch in your right ear down to your shoulder. And again, you turn your head to the right. And again, feel that stretch. Come back, and again, the left ear. So left, turn to the left, left chin onto your left shoulder. And then again, you're going to go to the right. Chin onto your right shoulder. Good. Now we're trying to get our left ear to touch the left shoulder. Keeping those shoulders down. Right ear, right shoulder. Keeping shoulders down. And again, left ear, left shoulder. Good. Right ear, right shoulder. Good. And then back. Okay, so bring your shoulders up into your ears and then just drop down. And again, bring your shoulders up into ears and drop down. One more. Shoulders to ears and drop down. Okay, so you're going to take your right hand straight out in front of you and your left hand goes onto your fingertips. So the feeling is you're pushing your right hand away from you as you're pulling your left hand towards you. So you get that stretch in your palm, but also in your forearm. So again, spending a lot of time working with a mouse or a keyboard, that's going to get very tight. Okay, we change. So again, same thing. Again, notice the difference between your dominant hand and non-dominant hand as to where that tightness is. So I'm pushing my left hand away, but I'm pulling my right hand towards me. Good. Now taking hold of your right wrist with your left hand, just circle that wrist. So you're making circles. The idea is trying not to let the wrist or the elbow get involved and change direction. Good, then just wave down and wave up, wave down and wave up, keeping your hand on the wrist. Okay, then we change. So again, hold on to the wrist and again, just circle. So the idea is not to let the elbow get involved. We're just trying to get that wrist working now and moving. We're changing direction. Good, then down and up, down and up. Good, and then just shake both hands out like so. Bring hands up high and wave goodbye. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you very much for taking part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Carl.